welcome to another week of The Bookseller. I'm your host, Jessica Gillen, and this week we're doing another mystery thriller. This show is brought to you by Eventide Entertainment. Welcome. I am so sorry that I didn't have a show last week for you. It has been a struggle for me to read lately. I don't know if it's from starting a new job and just trying to get my schedule in order, or if I just haven't been getting sucked into a book lately. But I'm going on a work trip the next 4 days, and I'm going by myself. So I'm going to take a whole stack of books, and my goal is to read 3 books while I'm away. I'm hoping to read a little bit more than that, but my goal is 3, and I really feel that we can make that happen. We'll talk about those books I'm going to be trying to read over the next couple days. I picked some good ones, kind of all range genre. We are sticking with YA. We just had an adult book last week, so I'm kind of going back into the YA world here until I get captivated by another adult release. Now, before we get into the nitty-gritty here and talk about the book that I'm reviewing this week, I just want to let you guys know about some exciting news. So right now, we air the show, The Bookseller, every Sunday. It usually hits your news feed, iTunes, whatever you use to listen to my wonderful voice on Sunday at 9 o'clock in the morning, Eastern, yes. Well, now, starting June, we are going to start airing this show on Monday mornings. So yes, usually Sunday is a really great day for like a lazy Sunday. It's usually when I get a good bit of my reading done because I'm kind of just want to relax and enjoy my last day off before going back to work. But we feel here at Eventide Entertainment that my show would do much better in the Monday morning slot instead of a Sunday. So I'm really hoping that you will look for my show starting in June every Monday morning. We're going to start it off right. Start off your Monday blues with some great book reviews, especially next week's show, which will still air on Sunday, but so it should be a lot of fun, and I hope to hear from you and kind of get your feedback on how the show is doing, what you like, what you don't like, as well as what kinds of things would you like me to add to the show. I used to talk about book releases and book news, as well as the books I was going to be reading. Did you like that? Did you like knowing ahead of time what I was going to be giving you, or do you like the element of surprise? You know you can always find me on Goodreads and figure out what I'm reading there, even if you want to just get like some spoiler up ahead, how I'm feeling the book out. Right now I'm reading Children of Blood and Bone, which is actually a really good book. It's just I have not gotten totally sucked in it because it's one of those books. It's very high fantasy. You have to sit down and give it the time that it deserves. Kind of like what I did with Renegades. Renegades wasn't a high fantasy book, but because it was so dense and had so much world building, it was one of those books that you had to sit down, put a block of time out, and read it. Children of Blood and Bone is very, very, very good. I am enjoying it every time I read it. I'm excited. It's hard for me to give it a block of time. I'm going to be finishing that book, though, over my work trip escapade. All right, so you're not here for all that hoopla. Well, you are. You want to know the updates of the show, of course. But really what you're here for is my review for this week. So what is it? Well, I decided to stick on the mystery thriller train. Last week, or the last show, we did The Woman in the Window, which was a really good and, kind of not a simple mystery thriller, but it wasn't, gory or super action-packed. It was a good read. It was a nice read to kind of sink your feet in. It was quick, fast-paced as far as the way the chapters were broken down. And that was an adult mystery thriller. So for this episode, I decided to give you a review of a book that I read not that long ago. It's called The Vanishing Season by Joanna Shaffhausen. I'm so sorry if I butchered your name. Terrible at names. Really sorry. But The Vanishing Season is actually a YA, so a young adult mystery / thriller. So last week we did a review of a adult mystery thriller, and this week we're going to do a YA mystery thriller. And I'm going to kind of touch on the differences in writing and plot quality. There's definitely a big difference there. So let's talk about this book. The Vanishing Season was published December 5th, 2017, so it is within that 6-month recent release quota I'd like to have most of my books reviewed on the show done by. It is a relatively small book. It was very, very fast as far as length. Hardcover, it totals in about 273 pages. So under 300 pages, pretty easily doable within a day of reading, which I did accomplish with this book. As I've said before, it's considered a young adult mystery thriller. Let's get into the description. You always like this eerie. Cue the eerie music, please. Ellery Hathaway knows a thing or two about serial killers, but not through her police training. She's an officer in sleepy Woodbury, Massachusetts, where a bicycle theft still makes the newspapers. No one there knows she was once victim number 17 in the grisly story of a serial killer, Francis Michael Coben, the only victim who lived. When 3 people disappear from her town in 3 years, all around her birthday, the day she was kidnapped so long ago, Ellery fears someone knows her secret. Someone very dangerous. Her superiors dismiss her concerns, but Ellery knows the vanishing season is coming, and anyone could be next. She contacts the one man she knows will believe her, the FBI agent who saved her from a killer's closet all those years ago. Agent Reed Markham made his name and fame on the back of the Coben case, but his fortunes have since turned. His marriage is in shambles, his bosses think he's washed up, and worst of all, he blew a major investigation. When Ellery calls him, he can't help but wonder, sure, he rescued her, but was she truly ever saved? His greatest triumph is Ellery's working nightmare. But now both of them are about to be sucked into the past, back to the case that made them, with a killer who cannot let go. Okay, terrible sound effect person, I know. Don't hate me for that. All right. Sounds kind of creepy, right? Serial killers, if you're into Criminal Minds, Mindhunter, you like watching those random YouTube videos on serial killers. Oh, wait, that's me. Yes, I am that creepy person that likes to stay up late watching serial killer documentaries. Anyway, this book, immediately from reading that description, intrigued me. I want to read this. I went on my library, click yes, put on hold, please and thank you. And surprisingly enough, there was quite the waiting list for this book. That is usually a very good sign when I have to wait to get a book, especially one that's been a recent release. And, although it has been a couple months since it's been released, so the fact that it was still had such a major waiting list was a big deal. So before we get into the plot, the characters, the writing, all that good stuff, we're going to take a very short, brief break. You guys know all the song and dance now, so we'll be back in 1 minute. Stay tuned, and I can't wait to chat about this book.
Wednesdays on Eventide, Robert Yetter and Mike Shea sit down and throw albums at each other, talking about them, picking them apart, ripping them a new one. All different artists, all different genres, all different levels of suckage. It's Track Record, Wednesdays at 9 a.m. on the Eventide podcast feed. For more information, go to eventideent.com.
You know, there's nothing quite as satisfying as a good conversation with intelligent company.
Join comedian Don Smith every week as he sits down and talks with comedians, actors, filmmakers, writers, and everyday schmoes. It's The Life with Don Smith, Wednesdays at noon on 106.9 FM, and now available on the Eventide Entertainment podcast feed every Friday on Spreaker, YouTube, and iTunes.
Thanks for hanging in there and listening to all of our offerings here at Eventide Entertainment. Although that's not all. We have a comedy show as well as a movie review show, so make sure to check that out too. Really awesome people here. Great family, comfy cozy. I am the book nerd, though, of the family, and that's okay. I'm fine with it. I accept who I am as a person. All right, so this book, mystery thriller, we had got serial killer, victim who survived and becomes a police officer. Kind of a very same story that we've heard time and time again. Will it be the same as those we've read before? Yes. Is it a letdown? Yes. All right, on a much serious note, let's talk about the plot. So the plot is interesting. The Vanishing season is basically a story about Ellery, who was the only survivor of the serial killer Francis Michael Coben. Years later, she moves away to a small town in Massachusetts. She changes her name, she becomes a police officer, and is kind of going into her normalcy routine life. The story basically starts with her investigating the disappearance of 3 people 3 years in a row. So every year for the past 3 years, all around her birthday, someone has gone missing. And it kind of is mirroring what happened when she was a child and there was people that went missing over and over again. None of the police force believes her when she tries to tell them that there is a connection between each 3 people. Just because these 3 people are so different from one another, it is hard to see the connection. But she knows that there's a connection because this all happens around her birthday. She has a feeling, her intuition is kicking. This has something to do with her. But she doesn't want people to know who she really is because, the whole case is infamous, and it would just kind of bring a lot of celebrity and, questions she doesn't really want to answer at this part of her life. She wants to move on. So because none of her team believes her at the police force, she calls the FBI agent who rescued her, who is Reed Markham. This person is definitely not the same person, her hero, her knight in shining armor from when she was a child. He has washed up. He kind of is, he went from being such a huge celebrity, especially being the person that rescued her, arrested the serial killer. He wrote a book about it. He was really high celebrity. And he's kind of fallen off the wagon. His marriage is in shambles. There's kind of a weird mix there between him and his wife and his child. I feel like in the book we get a lot of his coworkers or people around him don't respect him as much as they once did. So Ellery calls him because she feels that he will be the only one that believes her when she tells him about this connection. As well as it's the only person she doesn't need to explain what happened to her for it to be like, hey, there's a connection here to this case. He's going to be like, oh yeah, these 3 disappearances are happening all around your birthday. you're right, that does seem suspicious. We should look into this. And bringing an FBI agent into a case kind of makes it a bigger deal than just the local police force looking into a disappearance. So by bringing him there, it kind of draws attention and makes her office kind of be like, oh, this is a big deal. There is a connection. We should look into this more, which is what she wants. She wants people to look into these 3 disappearances before the 4th one happens. Her birthday is approaching, and the book kind of surrounds her upcoming birthday. Who's going to be next? She's trying to find who this person is before they get captured. So we talked a little bit about the 2 main characters. It is annoying the book does switch perspectives. I really didn't need that. I could have just stuck with Ellery's perspective. And it's not like in every other kind of thing where in a lot of YA we get that, where one chapter is this person and then X chapter is this other person and it switches back and forth. It doesn't do that. It's actually quite random when it happens, which I can understand that being kind of a cliffhanger plot device. It's just very frustrating because honestly, I don't really care that much for Reed's character. I liked Ellery and I liked her dog. And even still, Ellery was not a fleshed out character. But we'll talk about that in a second. So let's talk about her. Ellery was the young woman who was kidnapped and tortured at the hands of the infamous serial killer as a very young girl. She was the only girl to have ever been successfully rescued, which resulted in the capture and arrest of the serial killer. So there were 17 girls total. She was the last girl, number 17. So 16 girls before her were killed. So it's kind of a big deal that she was the only one in all of those girls to ever survive. And that really paints a shadow for her. She is always haunted by that past, which if you were her, or I mean, it's so hard to be like, oh, that's predictable. Someone got captured by a serial killer and tortured and everything. Yeah, she's going to be haunted by that. But really, a lot of us who go through something really traumatic, even if we persevere or are resilient to what happened to us, there is always that, the monkey on our back, the shadow that's always following us. We may be able to get above it, like Ellery did, where she became a police officer and she's trying to focus her life in a different direction. She is still plagued by what happened to her, just like I think a lot of us who have been through a traumatic experience, we do still have that part of us that doesn't either fully trust people, it really depends what your traumatic experience was, but there's always something that makes you think twice before you do something. Our actions are shaped by our experiences, and that's definitely Ellery. I think that was something that I really liked reading about her, was learning about her traumatic experience of being kidnapped and tortured, as gruesome as that is, but to see that she did persevere and she's, really gone on a really great path in her life where some people, they might go the opposite. It's so nice to read a story where a girl tries to go the right way, but is still plagued by what happened to her, and that's always going to be a battle no matter what. So I could definitely connect with her on that part, which is probably why I liked the character Ellery the most. So some insight that we actually get into how Ellery is a deeply flawed character and how the trauma of her past is manifesting in her present life. She's vulnerable. Her closets are nailed shut in her home because she is terrified of being put into a closet again, because that was part of what happened to her. Is when she was kidnapped and tortured, she was trapped inside of a closet. So she's very much afraid of closets. She keeps all of hers nailed shut. And that is one of the reasons why she doesn't let people into her house, but also because She doesn't trust anyone, so she never invites people over. No one ever gets to go inside of her home. It's very much her sacred place, and she needs to be safe there. She does have a dog, though, so at least she has somewhat of a person that's on guard, I guess. It's so interesting to me that she chooses to live by herself. Like, she's not plagued by that fear of being alone and not having someone there if something happens. Because I would think it would manifest in the opposite way, where you would always want people around you. But hey, everyone's different. We experience things differently. This is also a fictional character. I have to remember that. But I just thought that was really, really hard to see, that she just couldn't let people in. She doesn't have a lot of close friends. Even her coworkers don't really know her. She just is very closed off. She loves her dog, and it was really nice to see her love and care for an animal, as well as Reed, the FBI agent. When he comes into the story, there is like a bond there, but it's really, really sad and heartbreaking to see what's happened to her and how that's created her into the person she is now. She's very closed off. She's very scared to let people in and let people know her. So she's definitely a difficult character, a very flawed character, but as someone that went through something traumatic, I can identify greatly with her, and I feel a lot of pain for her. The other character, Reed, I felt pretty meh about him. We get some insight into his life, how things are going with his marriage, his children, as well as his career. I felt like he was put in there just as a different perspective on the case, kind of getting a FBI's mind on the serial killer or what's happening to these disappearances of these people, kind of getting his perspective on it. That was refreshing, but as a character, he felt very weak, just kind of, not someone really that you looked forward to reading his chapters, honestly. I didn't really care for him that much. All right, let's get into the writing. So given that this was a little over 200 pages, it was like 270 pages long, it was really a quick read, as in it's not very dense. Under 300 pages for me can easily be done in a day, if not 2 days. 2 days is really stretching it if I just don't have the time, if I'm not captivated by the book at all. But usually a 300-page book, I'm in and out, no problem. I did read this in a day, but unfortunately the pace is terrible. It starts off really, really good. You immediately get drawn into the story and you just want to know what happened. You especially want to know the details of the case that happened to Ellery. I think that was the most intriguing part for me, just because I am a huge crime, serial killer, Criminal Minds, Mindhunter kind of buff. So I love that stuff. I read those kinds of books. And so in that sense, it was really interesting to me. But the pace for a mystery/thriller was terrible. It felt like so much BS for so much of the book. And then it's building up to who's this person? Who's the person that's kidnapping these people? That's the build for like the second half of the book. And then when we get that climax, when we get that conclusion, it just kind of concludes in 2 pages. This big dramatic, we're supposed to see Ellery kind of go through this metamorphosis of turning into a butterfly. And it just seemed so rushed and not really a lot of time and commitment given. I wish it would have been really a bigger part of the story rather than just like rushing through, this is the person that it is, and da-da-da-da-da. So with that said, I knew who the person, the bad person, the person that we're going to find out is doing these things. I knew who it was pretty soon into the book. It was very easy to find out just because we don't get a lot of characters in the book. We get a few. And for somebody that's read mystery thrillers before, I kind of know, or my brain kind of knows what to look for as far as when a random character just for no reason is brought into the story. You know, of course a reason is given. It's a friend, it's a distant family member. Oh, it's somebody that's related to this person. It's always, they give you a little bit of detail on the person, but you never then hear about them really. Like, they might every now and then have a cameo appearance in the book. It just was so predictable. And I think even just me saying that, if you were to read it, knowing like, Jessica said that the person is someone that isn't very present in the book, but still is there, you're going to know exactly who it is. 100,000,000%. And that is so frustrating to me. I know mystery thrillers are hard to be original at. I understand that a lot of people can predict endings just because literary devices, plot devices that are used, that's, you want to make an arc. I get it. But it just felt so easy to predict, so easy to know what the outcome was going to be, so easy to read what this book's intentions were. And for a mystery/thriller, that irritated me. And that kind of goes into the writing. I wish that there would have been way more white herrings. I wish that there had been more for us to kind of be like, no, it's this person because, you know, all these clues match up with this person. And then somehow you miss one small detail. But there wasn't that. You saw it coming from a mile away. I will be shocked at the reviews that say, I did not see the ending coming. I don't know if you don't read enough mystery thrillers to really know and predict things, but that was easy. Easy street. And just to kind of give you an idea, last week we did The Woman in the Window. That was an adult thriller. Yes, I still was able to kind of work out the ending, but it was way, way, way more work. This was like in your face. I don't want to say dumbed down because that feels really harsh to the author, but it just felt like, you know, I'm not going to say it was just the author because, to be honest, young adult murder mysteries, murder thrillers are never, from my experience of I want to say I've read 10 to 20 of them in this genre, not one have I been able to be like, wow, clap, clap, clap. That was really unpredictable. Congrats to you. You outsmarted me. You outwitted me. That was a good read. No, I've been able to predict a lot of YA mystery thrillers. I've been able to see the ending coming, read the plot devices and literary devices, and immediately light up. It just is so easy to me. Where adult mystery thrillers, although some of them still can be predictable, I think it's different because in those, I feel like there's way more of a battle of whodunit. You're trying to, in your mind while you're reading, you're making a list of suspects in your mind, and you're reading things as you go, and you're like, no, that doesn't make sense. Cross that person off. So it's like a journey in adult mystery novels. In YA, I feel like it's just kind of brought up to your face, and if you don't see it, if you don't see this giant elephant in the room, I don't know what to say. I don't like mystery thrillers in this genre. I have been let down time and time again, and I am so surprised that this had such a wait list given how it was. And honestly, the ratings for this, which I didn't mention at the beginning of this episode, and I apologize, the ratings for this on Goodreads, I want to say was a 3.4, which isn't good. That tells me there's a lot of 2-star and 3-star ratings. And there was. A lot of people rate this 3 stars. And that's just because people don't want to be able to predict an ending that easily. it's fine if we're able to predict it, but make it a challenge. Make it something where when we put that book down, maybe to go make ourselves a snack or drink some tea, that our mind is racing, that we're thinking, who did this? What are the suspicions I have? What are the clues I have? I feel like the only truly magnificent mastermind of this genre has been Agatha Christie. Most of her books I have not been able to predict. Congrats to her. Really. Deep sigh. So I rated this a 2.5. And the reason I even gave it that was because I was intrigued by the premise. I thought it was a really interesting plot. I also really liked the main character. I felt like I could relate to her, and her struggle and inner demons were not just relatable, but really, really hashed out. Like, the author took time to really know or explain who she is. I liked that. That was the strongest point of the writing, was that character. The rest, I'm sorry. It just wasn't for me. It didn't do it for me, and I'm really disappointed. Yeah, that's the Vanishing season. So, let's talk about those 3 books. All right, with that said, it's kind of funny, but I am going to try another mystery thriller scary book in the YA genre. The one of the 3 that I am promising myself that I will read this week is Pitch Dark by Courtney Amelita. Not sure. The cover is creepy. It's a skull. It looks like water. It looks creepy. It's a recent release. It came out in March. My library is only giving me 2 weeks to be able to read this book. So that's why one of the other reasons, incentive to get this book done. And I do want to give a mystery thriller another chance. I do, because the Vanishing season, it did let me down. And, like I've said before, I have not really liked any books, mystery thrillers in the YA genre. But that doesn't mean, I don't still enjoy reading them. I just want more. I expect more. I understand young adult is for young adults. But we don't need to be spoon-fed material. I want the challenge of figuring who done it. Please. So Pitch Dark is one of the books that I'll be reading. Next is going to be Ash Princess, that just came out in April. Very recent release. As well as I'm going to finish Children of Blood and Bone. Please also look for my next review, which will be Ace of Shades, which is the book I received in my Owl Crate for the month of April. It was like my April birthday gift. I'm so excited though, because while I'm gone at my work trip, I will get my next Owl Crate. So I'm so excited to see what's in there, what book we're getting next. It's supposed to be a Viking lore kind of book. So definitely have some to look forward to. I need to get some reading done because there are a lot of books I'm excited to read. So with that said, I hope you enjoyed my review of The Vanishing season. I hope it wasn't too critical. I just feel like sometimes that's what you guys want. If you have any questions for me or something you liked or didn't like about this show, give me a holler on Goodreads or find me in the Gmail posted below. Thank you, and I hope you have a very summery week. Bye.